Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Give Me God of War walkthrough. We've just defeated the boss of Alfheim, and we're going to be leaving the Realm of Light, exploring the Lake of the Nine, and then we're going to be freeing a dragon called Otter, I think his name is, which we'll finish up in the next video when we take on the boss of his region, which is another one of the trolls. He's very simple. He's pretty much like every other troll you've fought, so don't worry. But go to the blacksmith, get as much new stuff as you can. The reason for exploring the Lake of the Nine at this moment in time is hopefully that we can get to some realm tears, and I can discuss that. But before I discuss that, I want to talk about the light arrows. So not only can Atreus now enable us to shoot crystals that will light up pathways, build bridges of light, things of that nature, but he's also going to be incredibly useful for stunning enemies, because his arrows now will do increased stun. You can upgrade this in the menus, should you choose to, and when you fire now, you will fire these magic arrows. So the blue ones are the additional stun. They can be very useful, and once again, you should be using Atreus. If you're not, you're missing out. That right there was a transition from one area to another, trimming out all the middle bits. If only the game did that, that would be wonderful, but it does not. A lot of back and forth with the Midgard realm and everything. But into the boat, and then immediately off here towards an area that has some spirits. So this is the Iron Cove. When you talk to this brazier, it's going to spawn a bunch of nightmares and a bunch of the icy fellows, whose name I should know, but I've misplaced. So the nightmare pops up. Oh, it's not, it's the Vikings. My bad, I thought there was blue guys here. Your priority at this moment in time is to focus on getting rid of the nightmares. These guys are nothing. These guys are completely blockable, completely parryable, and not much of a problem. It's the little shits in the back that are going to make this anything more memorable than it need be. I'm coming here slightly later than you can do this. You could have done this much earlier if you'd wanted to. But once again, these enemies are level 3. So if you'd have only been level 1, they would have been 2 levels higher than you, and there's a chance that they might have even had purple HP. And the purple enemies tend to have properties that you can't do much against other than dodge and then hit them a few times and then get away from. But here are a couple of the shield guys. Guard break them with the double tap of the block button. Watch yourself for the thrust that they do. The thrust that the shield guy does is very fast. It only does chip damage, but it does break your block and it does stun you. So be very careful. And then just proceed to, between you and Atreus and your axe, you should be fine. Leviathan and Atreus make a very lethal combination against enemies that aren't too strong, and these enemies aren't the strongest compared to what we've been fighting anyway. So, capitalise, get rid, and just be aware that these enemies can regenerate if you give them the opportunity to do so. It's not the end of the world, because they do take damage quite well, but it can be frustrating. Go on, Atreus, you beast. Keep on hitting him. There you go. Oh, and he's exploding as well when he dies, so watch out for that. That's one of those things I always forget about this enemy type. I get hit more times by the explosion than I'd like to admit. But talk to the spirit. Hopefully he gives us something nice. Gives you some cool stuff. We've got a bit of experience, and then we can move on. I believe we're going to be going now to the area... I don't know. Oh, this is the middle area. I know this part. This is the Isle of Death. So this is another area where you can talk to a spirit, and there's going to be a bunch of the ice dudes who can put up the protective wall that detonates when you get close to it, which is really annoying. Never ever let anything that throws projectiles at you get comfortable. They have a wonderful animation too. You know the ones who have to charge the ice blast before they throw it? If you're close to them when they've charged the ice blast, they do a pirouette and they throw it behind them. And it's really tricky to dodge as well. It's a nightmare. But... this guy's level 4, so hopefully we can kick him off. Didn't work, which... why wouldn't it work, you know? I'm always confused when it doesn't work. But here the guy's building walls. So... and he's still alive! Interesting. Bitch. Wow. That was unfortunate. So do not go near these walls. If you go near these walls, they detonate and they do a big AoE to you. Best thing to do is to just throw back the projectile and break the wall with it. I think it even stuns the enemy if you do it correctly. Where the hell did he come from? There's some interesting spawns on this sequence, so be careful, guys. Be very careful. Make sure you don't have your back against an enemy, never a good place to be. And make sure you use Atreus to help you out here, because he definitely can help with the flinch. But there goes 2 guys. We've got 2 more now chucking things at us. Just move back and forth, tossing the axe, using Atreus' arrows. Throw back the projectile if you can, if you see it. But do not go near that wall. Do not. Really, really awkward. And that's the end of the fight. Once again, you could have done this fight earlier, but it would have been a little bit more tricky. It's entirely up to you. And we just got the World Serpent Scales, sorry, which is really important. There's also a treasure over there. I don't know if I've picked it up, but just underneath the bow of this boat, there is a buried treasure. And I'm not too sure what's in it, but it's probably good. Let's have a see. So, what do we get? We got Lepta Alloy, which is one of the rarer commodities for using in crafting. There are a few of those that can help you out. One of them is the Oblivion Sphere, I think it's called. Oblivion Spheres, there's Corrupted Remains. There's obviously, is it the Smouldering Ashes that you get from Muspelheim? There's quite a lot of different resources that you can get that can go in towards making very powerful equipment stronger and such. But I'm not going to be caring too much with it because I don't really have to. 1, 2, 3, and play. Okay, so we've just transitioned onto the beach of a new location. This is down the river path that led to the statue of Thor. This is where a trapped dragon is, but before we get to that, we're going to be taking out this guy over here who just leveled up. So deal with this guy as fast as you can, and be aware that a lot of enemies are going to start coming this way, and some of them are the heavy draugrs that can do the moves you have to parry. So I'm going to use a couple rune attacks here amidst the charge moves and the cleaves, and then I'm going to try and jump back across. You can get cock-blocked by enemies when you try to do that, but this is a really advantageous position, this of moving back and forth, because the enemies have to jump, and when they're doing that, they're in an animation. So you can use it to bully them, and you can use Atreus, and you can use your axe, and you can use a lot of guerrilla tactics to kind of give these guys a hard time. When I was originally doing this strategy, I was hoping that I could knock them in the water, but it never seems like that happens. Oh, by the way, he's now level 5, and he's purple, which means most of his moves you're going to have to parry, and some of them will be unblockable. And he's also one with a draugr with powered up legs, so he's going to do the incredibly fast running towards you into the strike. So use it to your advantage, parry it, and then just keep your eye on these two heavy draugrs, because they're going to want to level up if they haven't already. So you want to try and stop it if you can, but if they have leveled up, just continue onwards. Additionally, you'll notice that that dude on the left has a status effect on him that you might not know about. So the light arrows also have a bonus status effect that you can proc on people that's called weakness, or weaken, sorry. When you weaken an enemy, they apparently take more flinch, more stun, and more damage. I don't really know the parameters for this, I've just read it on a tooltip, but it's one of those things that can't hurt, so you definitely want to work towards using it. It'd be really nice, and it could exist, but I haven't personally seen it, if there was a way to work towards a weaken build, where you could wear perhaps pieces of gear that gave you benefits for weaken and such, and you could perhaps even buy an outfit for Atreus that specialised in it, but as of late I haven't seen those particular things, because the weaken status is the type of thing that I would love to spec towards, because it's just so very useful. Making something take more damage and stun quicker is fantastic, right? But I don't know enough about the games, guys, so that might not even be what it does. Because how many games have you played where you've read something in a game that it's supposed to work a certain way and then it doesn't even work that way? So for all we know, it might not even work that way. But I trust that the tip was correct. Here's a tassel worm doing his thing. I think this is one of the ones that fires poison at you, so that's why he's being so passive and taking such distance from me. You can tell the difference between them because his throat is green. It's got kind of the pussy, awful looking colour to it. But he's dead, and now we get our first introduction to the dragon. One of the problems with this area, and the reason why I'm going to be doing what I'm doing coming up, which is running past an entire... there's a legion of enemies up here, but the checkpoint isn't there. There isn't a checkpoint to alleviate the nuisance of getting hit or taking damage or not doing it as cleanly as you would like. So instead of fighting everybody while the dragon's alive, I'm going to run past the dragon, go into the castle, and that'll give you a checkpoint. So once you're inside there, you're okay. But on this early moment, if you are fighting your way up the mountain towards the establishment on the top of the hill, if you die at any point, it puts you back at the bottom of the beach. And it's not a problem because you don't have to do the fight again that we just did because it's saved after the fight. But it's just annoying having to run all the way back past the dragon and all the way up and everything every time. And it's easy to take a hit from a lot of these enemies too. This is really important, by the way. Coming up here is one of the reasons we're doing this, because this gets us one of the Dust of Realms. So that particular item enables you to upgrade talismans, and we just got the Amulet of Kvasa, right, which is a really, really powerful talisman, and when we upgrade it, it means that the slow motion we get when we dodge attacks is even longer. The downside of the amulet, which is something I'm going to speak about, is that because I can't choose the statistics that it governs to give me, I'm unfortunately going to be getting more HP. So you'll notice that my life is no longer as short as the rage bar, which base HP in this game without any kind of augments is the same size as your rage bar. Mine's a little bit longer now because I get vitality off the amulet. If I could change that, I would. I would rather take strength or runic any day. I'd take luck at a push if I had to. And that's something that I wish the game had, actually. I wish there was a way to use the blacksmiths to change what stats the armor gives you, so you could perhaps use a precious resource to craft the armor into the armor you want it to be, rather than the armor that it is. And this could have adverse effects, of course. It could make it a bit more, homogeneous, so that everybody kind of uses the same thing and then just spins the stats. But that level of customization, I think, would really, really benefit a player like myself, who I don't want more life, I don't want more defense. If I'm getting hit when I'm playing, I'm doing it wrong. That's kind of the mentality I've always had when it comes to getting better at games. If you can do it without taking damage, you'll never need life. If you can do it without taking hits, you'll never need defense. If you can achieve both of those things, then you'll be really good at the game, right? That's kind of how that works. Or one would think so. But I'm going to be skipping these two fights here, guys, because there's a lot of people who throw projectiles who can chip you, and the dragon can hit you with AoE lightning as well. So I'm not even going to entertain that encounter. I'm just going to come over here, and then I'm going to jump down onto this cliffside, and then do this fight against the two heavy Viken enemies. So I'm trying to detonate the pot, but I'm not doing a good job of it. Because in my mind, if I smash it, it'll save, right? That's my idea. When really, I should have baited the enemies towards the pot and used it as an explosive. Because these enemies are very, very powerful. They have a lot of HP, they can block the throw from the axe. And if they level up, they have even more HP. That's him powering up his weapon, by the way. When he powers his weapon up, it does even more damage, I believe. Because he gives it that kind of fiery AoE. Which, in fairness to the game, I've never had a problem with these AoEs. I've always felt them to be quite fair. They've never hit me when I felt like they shouldn't. It's always been my mistake, so props to the devs there. And all I'm going to do with these guys is, between me and Atreus, I'm just going to keep pecking at them, use my abilities, hit them when they turn around. Because they're not too high level, this does incredible damage to them. And it gives people a strategy who aren't perhaps great at the combat. Because you need to be aware that, of course, throwing the axe is really powerful, but there are better ways to play. And as long as you're comfortable with both, there's nothing you can't handle. Because let's face it, a lot of people playing this game are chucking the axe, right? You're seeing it a ton. And you're seeing it because it's damaging and it's safe. And a lot of people go back to the lowest common denominator in games. They want the safest, easiest strategy, right? And throwing the axe just so happens to be that for a lot of cases. But the fear that you should have, if that's you, is that when you do nothing but throw the axe, you don't learn much. You don't learn how to engage when throwing the axe is not an issue. It's not an option, sorry. But at the same time, I would never say don't do it, because it's really useful. And in a fight like this, where if you get hit by these enemies, they'll probably one-shot you if you have my HP threshold. That can be annoying. And the reason that I fought it as safely as I did just then is just purely because the checkpoint isn't there. If the checkpoint was there, it might have been a little bit different, but the good news is there's plenty more of those enemies, so if you want to see more aggressive ways to kill them, that's going to happen later on. One of the cool parts about making a walkthrough that is quite this long is I get to experiment and show different strategies. And I've tried to do that with the bosses as best I can, where on perhaps one phase I'll show you what you can do, and then on a second phase I'll show you what you should do. Things like that. And it's nice to be able to discover new things, and then be able to share them, and hopefully you can take them and use them and have an easier time. Because there is going to be a lot of strategy and a lot of min-maxing on this game on how to kill things the fastest and do the most damage, and I'm under no illusion that there's going to be a lot more advanced gameplay coming out which helps us get past some of the trickier sections, and I look forward to seeing what it is, because I've discovered about as much as I'm probably going to with the game. There'll still be some things that I'll learn by accident, but at the moment, it's been a while since I've had an epiphany moment and realised something. Which, I like those moments because they prove that you're still learning, you're still understanding and I'm looking forward to whatever the next one may be. But once you move into this area, I believe you get a checkpoint once you open that doorway, and then you can use the pot of flames to get rid of these shield Viken guys, and then from here get as much experience as you can, open up the plot points, pick up the treasure, so on and so forth. We're going to be breaking these pedestals that are apparently keeping the dragon sealed. The final one is back out where we ran past everything, so don't worry, we'll be coming back for that. But the other ones are in here, I believe, and then there is a boss in this area, which is another one of the trolls, and then once we take him on, we're going to be getting access to a pretty cool talisman that he gives you, which I believe is called the Horn of Heimdal, which is one of my favourites in the game. If I wasn't using Kvasir, I'd use the stunning Heimdal talisman. Mostly because I really like Idris Elba's character in the Thor movies, but fundamentally, it gives you more stun, and stunning on this difficulty can be great. Because the enemy, for instance, you know the bug boss we just killed in Alfheim? When you fight two of those enemies, you can build stun on them. So if you were able to build enough stun, you could kill one of them without having to kill it. And that would be very powerful. I don't think I've ever seen the stun execution move on that enemy, because on this difficulty, it's so hard to do. You have to kill yourself to stun things, and that's not a great strategy, right? If you can kill them just by fighting them, and in that time you don't stun them, it's probably better to just kill them, right? That's how I've kind of looked at it. But then there are circumstances where stunning is super important. For instance, in the double ogre fights, stunning one ogre to damage the other ogre is pretty much how I believe the fights were designed to flow. I think that's the way that they're meant to be fought, but on this difficulty, stunning the ogres can be insane. Like, I'm talking trapping them with the Atreus bow special move, hitting them with something with the axe that keeps them stunned and perpetually hit as well, and then repeatedly hitting them with my most stunning moves against walls, and at the end of it, when they finally recover, I still haven't stunned them. And I've been hitting them for 10 plus seconds of nothing but attacks, and they're still fine. It just leads to these moments of being like, I really think they should have changed this. And it's one of the things that I find really interesting about hitting enemies from behind deals more stun. There doesn't seem to be any technique on this game that gives you an enemy's back, other than movement. And that's all good and well, but by the time you've ran to the back of an enemy, they've recovered and fucking turned around. So I don't understand where the advantage is there. It'd make more sense to me is if, when you hit them with the R1 axe in the face, it spun them around. But if you hit them with the R2 axe in the face, it just does what it normally does when you hit them in the face, which is that stun animation. But can you imagine if there was a way to hit an enemy and it spun them? It would be such a better system, because then you could 100% govern how you're going to damage and how you're going to stun the enemies. Just imagine it. You wait for somebody to get close enough, you throw the axe in their face, they spin around, and then you proceed to do a full combo on their back, building incredible stun. It would almost be like Resident Evil 4, where you knife them in the face, get the stun, and then do the A prompt, and then kick their friends. Like, there would have been a system of building stun and countering, and if anything, spinning an enemy around gives you a breathing moment, right? It gives you a bit of an advantage. But I haven't found it. I haven't found a way to turn enemies around and to get their back. So you'll see footage of me, like, beginning a stun on an ogre and then sprinting around him to try and hit him in the back. And it just kind of feels messy and doesn't flow right. And it would be really nice if they would have given us... Maybe there is, you know. I don't know. I don't know enough right now, but it'd be really cool if there was some kind of way to make an enemy turn around. Like a kneecap shot or an elbow shot or some specific weakness shot that I don't know about that spun them. It'd be really cool, but I don't see it at the moment, and it's one of those mysteries that I'd love to find an answer to. Because you see what happened then? I hit him into the wall, his back hit the wall, it did incredible damage. Like, that stuff hurts so much. It'd be great if we could engineer it. But this is 3 Vikens, 1 casting projectiles, 2 with shields, and a Tatzel worm being a nuisance. This is another one of those areas that has a weird checkpoint as well, where you have to do 2 fights under the same circumstance. And it's always frustrating when that happens, because I think I got hit by the projectile, but I killed the Tatzel worms really quickly. So part of me wanted to edit this in a way where I kept the Tatzel worm first phase fight, and then I edited the victory onto it, but it just didn't flow right, so instead I didn't. And that's always frustrating as a guide maker when You know, when you have a 2-phase fight, and the first phase in your failed run is amazing. It's got like the sexiest, high-octane, awesome skill-based combat that you've ever done. And then the second phase you get hit by something like that. Look at that garbage. I hate that shield bash so much. It barely does damage to the point where it shouldn't do fucking damage. But it's still, if this was a no damage attempt, I'd have to reset that. Just because that motherfucker does a move that's really fast. And he always does it when you try and guard break him. Like, when you walk up to him to try and guard break him, boom, you get hit while you're doing your guard break because it doesn't, like, give you iframes or anything. And that happens all the time. There's a ton of moves you got to do when you get hit during them, and you wish they had a little bit more iframes and they don't. Very frustrating. He's also blue, the dickhead now. He's gone all purple-fied. How dare he? Big bitch. And shield enemy is my least favourite enemy in the game. I fucking hate them. Like, outside of enemies that are shit, shield enemies... I would rather fight 3 trolls at the same time than have a shield guy with other enemies. And it's just because he can do that guard break at any moment and it does chip damage to you. And when you're trying to attack other people, when you hit his shield, you rebound off it. It's just a recipe for disaster. I really dislike this enemy. I'm also frustrated that he won't come this way. That's why I'm spamming shield right now. Because this guy is the big... Oh, look at that. I love that. Atreus is so good, dude. Such a good character when it comes to being a fine utility to win. And then we can go and bully this guy, who, up close, he doesn't really have too much for you, which is nice, because if he did, it'd be a nightmare, right? And there's enough nightmares in this game. But not too bad. I took a bit of chip off that stupid shield move, but I don't like that move to begin with. I'm never going to like it. It's just one of those silly things. I really wish it didn't do damage, because I feel like it should be like, you know, when the ogre pushes you and it knocks you back, or when the final boss does that AoE to get you off him that's unblockable and unparryable, but it knocks you away and it doesn't do any damage, but he does it to stop you from doing massive combos on him. I think it should be like that. I don't think a guard break should do damage. I don't think Kratos' guard break should get damage. I think it should be a utility move for an advantageous position, but that's just not how the game works, so be careful. Thank you for watching, and you take care now.